Hello, my name is Clive from clivesart.co.uk, and thank you very much for taking the time to click on the play button. Yes, now this is the first in a series of elements. Now, I told you about this in the weekly update the other week and in a Q&A on a Thursday, which we do every Thursday. Now, I'm going to take you through a step-by-step process on all different aspects of paintings. In this particular case, it's going to be a cat. So if that's something you're interested in, then stay with me, and after this quick introduction, I invite you to join me in the studio. Oh, you've taken my invitation to join me in the studio. Great stuff. Yes, you could have brought a cup of tea with you, but don't worry. I'm happy Larry. I'm happy Larry today. Yes, I am. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about a cat. Why a cat? Because it was a vote that was put into the Clive's Art family a while ago now, and it was cat and squirrel were running there. But the cat took it, yes. So I'm going to break this down into its elements before we actually proceed to paint it. Why? Because it's easier to break it down section by section by section. Ears, eyes, nose, fur, ears, everything is an element. And if you can paint each element, to put it together into a painting is going to become a lot easier, because I have found over the years doing art societies and teaching private lessons, etc., that one of the first things that are asked of me is, can you show me how to paint my cat, my dog, my rabbit, my guinea pig, my horse, etc.? And I normally say, have you got any, have you painted before? How long have you been painting before? No, I haven't painted before. Can you draw? No, I can't draw. So for me to be able to sit you down to paint an animal is going to be really difficult. This is why during all of my other lessons here on YouTube, you will see that everything is broken down into fundamentals. I start with the sky. I start with a mountain. I start with trees. And all these things are put together, and this is how I teach. It's taught in an element type of block, so where we put all these things together. So when we sit down and do something like Autumn in the Rain, which we did a couple of weeks ago, which is a paint along, please check the links out below, or have a look at the card here, which you need to press that button there, and it'll drop down, and that'll take you into that. But before you do that, yeah, because it's all broken down. We've painted the trees before. We did a bit of grass work, and we've done the clouds. So it's all easy to come together. Even like the Christmas paint along that I did in 2014. Again, that series was spread over December. So what that showed was, again, the elements that I actually went through that year in 2014. They were all put together into a painting. Now, this is exactly what I want to show you here. But before I do that, it's important that we have a look at an eye. An eye is not as easy as people might think. It's quite a complicated, detailed thing, especially if you want to go into pet portraits like I specialize in, or wildlife art, or if you just want to paint a cat and it's your cat and you're not really going to concentrate specifically on that type of artwork, which is pet portraits or wildlife, then just paint a cat. But you will have an understanding, more of an understanding, if you stay with me and go through this these lessons. And they're all free. Yes, all free. I don't charge for these at all. I do it because I love the support and the family that I've got here on YouTube and in Clive's Art family members on my Facebook page. So please come along and join there. And I must say very quickly, thank you to all the people that have subscribed to our free monthly newsletter. Again, that comes out every month and tells you this and tells you that, what's happened, what's coming up, what am I doing in the studio, competitions, and you also get access to a free private video, not private, but if you've subscribed to the email newsletter, then you will get access to the videos that I put in there, some quick tips, some paint alongs. It's a hit and miss thing, and it's always a surprise. That's what I like about it. It's going to be a surprise to you and me, because I don't know what I'm going to do. So yeah, it's always a bit of a surprise. A bit dark in here. Let's put a light on. There we go. Is that better? A little bit. Not much. Is that better? Yes, it is. Okay. So eyes. Right. What we got to look at. This is what we're going to be doing. There you go. So we've got the eye. There's an explanation of the eye, which I'm going to go into in just 1 second. We're going to be looking at a nose. We're going to be looking at a ear, although it is a funny ear, but it's a ear. And we're going to be looking at fur. How do we paint fur? Yes, that is a lesson on its own. Trust me. But you've already had those basics. If you've been painting along with me now for this last 18 months to 2 years, then you've already got those fundamentals built in. You just don't know how to use them yet. But they're there. You've watched my videos, and I know there's a lot of you out there that support me and watch my videos over and over and over and over. And for that, I'm eternally grateful. But by doing that, it's reinforcing what I'm teaching you. And all these elements here are already there. The basic principle technique of what I'm going to show you is already in your mind. I'm just going to go and reinforce that for you. Okay, so I do tend to waffle a bit. So let's have a look at an eye. And I'm just going to put this by there, and I'm going to show you in colour, and we'll go from there. So what I'm doing is, that's the eye that I want us to try and paint initially. So not only are we going to be working on the eyeball itself, but we're going to be working on the eyelids, and we're going to put a little bit of fur in there later on after we work on the fur. So we'll just put a block out colour there. We're going to be working on the eye. We're going to have the highlight in the eye. Now how the eye works is, imagine this now cut halfway. So we've gone straight down. So we've got a shadow that's going to fall in there. So there's the shadow there. And then the light is coming into the eye and it bounces back out. So you've got the light coming in and refractive light. So the light, there's the highlight there, little spot, pitting. But we've also got some of the light escaping. It's called a reflective light. And we've got a highlight then which actually hits the lens then, and that's that bit there, look, see? Okay. And then we've got a bit of reflective light there on the bottom of the eyelid where there's moisture there and it catches. So that's quite a simple basic eye we're going to be looking at there. The other thing is, how do we draw a nose? As you can see, what I did then is just a basic triangle. It's as simple as that. How we paint the nose, how we go about putting the detail in the nose. When you paint the nose, it doesn't have to be over detailed. It all depends on the type of painting that you actually want to do. If you're going to be doing photorealism, then obviously you're going to be spending a lot of time doing detailed work. If it's just a painting of your pet, then you can put as much detail into this as you want. This is open to you. This is as detailed as you want it to be. Anyway, let's look in at the coat now, or the fur. I've done two different types then. I've done like the brown colour, or even black. Black is a little easier, believe it or not. But you can see all the clumps of fur. Nice long hair. This is a little bit shorter hair. This is more of a grey coat that you would find on a wolf or something like that. But you can see that there's a lot of detail in there without painting too much detail. That's the trick. And the ear then, again, as you can see, this is a little bit more complicated because you've got shadows and reflective highlights. You've got individual hairs, you've got clumps of fur, and then that's the side of the head then very, very quickly painted. Okay, so let's look at actually drawing the eye. I'm going to do this on paper. We will be taking this over to a canvas shortly. Now, personally, I do a lot of drawing. Well, I used to do a lot of drawing. I don't do a lot of drawing now. And I've got one of these devices, and as you can see, they're all different size. Turn it around the right way, Clive. They're all different size circles, if you want. Or, yeah, circles, let's call them circles. And I find that very useful, especially when I'm doing a portrait. Now, if you haven't got one of them, don't go to the expense of buying one. They're quite expensive. They're about £12. And for what you're going to actually be using these, I wouldn't really entertain spending that type of money. So, what can you use if you haven't got one of these? Well, you can use a little pot. Look, there's a lid on a pot. That'll fit perfectly in that one, which is what I want. So we'll put that down. Now you're going to be looking at a circle. So let's just draw a basic circle. I actually got one of my draft pencils out. There you go. There's a circle. Now, on this device, there's a little line there, and there's a little line there. I'm just going to put that in place. And there's a little line there, and there's a little line there. And basically, what that is, it already gives me the center of the circle. Well, it's supposed to give me the center of the circle, Clive. If you do it right, it might work. There we go. So what you then do, you need the pupil, which is a smaller circle. Again, you can, depending on how big you want the pupil, but let's make the pupil that size for now. So if we line these lines up, then that pupil is going to be in the center. Sort of. It never works when you want it to work, but you know what I mean. If you've got a problem with that, if you just make a quick square like that, and you take that there and then that there, and that's going to give you approximate iris there. Now, the other thing we want to do now is put the corner of the eye. Now, the eye lid comes over there roughly. That's the type of shape you're looking at. Now, if you don't draw very well, then don't worry too much. What I'm going to do is, once I finish this sketch, I'm going to take a photograph of it for you, so you can just keep it on file if you want. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, actually when I draw the cat, I'm going to, this is a little electric razor that I've got. And this is the type of thing I would do on the canvas. I actually draw in my line work. I draw in my line work, and then I reinforce it at a later stage. Okay, so we've got Got the eye there. And don't forget, when you draw eyes are exactly the same as size. Okay, so you make sure that this iris there and the actual eye itself has to be the same size. So that's just a quick sketch. So moving on to a nose now, if we were going to do a nose, and the eye distance, I was going to say on a human being, the distance between the two eyes is the same. So if you were going to paint a human or something like that, then it would be the same. Like that. Anyway, we're not going into that. Let's say basic nose looking forward. So we're looking at a triangle. Triangle has equal sides, don't forget. And then to take the corners off, little lines like that. And then put a little line there and a little line there like that. So you say, come from the bottom, around, and come up a little bit like that. There you go. And now come from there, from there and up. And from there and up, roughly the same line. And then what you want to do then is bring that around. And that's a very quick way, where did I put my eraser? That's a very quick way of doing a nose. And then you can just adjust your line work should you want to. As such, again, if the nose is on an angle, if you think of vanishing points like we discussed before, it's going to be slightly shorter on that side, slightly longer towards you, and that. And then that comes on an arc. And then that would come out a bit like that. And then that would come down there. So it's basically a nose and the eye. Yeah, so don't worry if you don't draw. It's not a problem. I wanted to show you roughly how to draw an eye and how to draw a nose, and well, years and years at the end of the day, they can just be triangles like that. But we'll cover yours again. What I'll do, I'll take a photograph of this, and I'll put that up on the if you want to join the Clive's Art family page, in the photos part, there's in the albums, there's an album that I put in there that I upload all these to. So if you want to come along and join, you are most welcome. So if you can't draw, don't worry. I just wanted to show you how to do it. As I said, this is elements. This is elements of the drawing. Now, what I'm going... just broke my pencil. What I'm going to be doing now, I'm going to be looking at painting some fur, and that's the next stage as far as this is concerned. So we've drawn the eye. In fact, I think it might be a good idea if we start on the eye. Let's start on the eye, and we will leave the fur till a later one. So let's transfer what we've learned already onto a small canvas. Now I suggest, I got one here somewhere, I suggest if you want to get a small canvas, this is a 20 centimeter by 20 centimeter canvas. I'm going to be using this for an eye. I'm going to put an eye on there, and it's easier to paint a larger eye so you'll understand how it works. And then you, whatever size image you were going to be doing, I'm going to do this roughly about the same size as the cat's eye that I've already done. So to save video time, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be moving on to the eye now. So I'll just draw that in place, and what I'll do after I've drawn that, I'll take a photograph of it and I'll put it in the album on the Clive's family page, on the Facebook page, and then you can download that and transfer it if you want. Don't worry about transferring, there's no law against it. So bear with me 1 second and I'll be back. Okay, so yeah, welcome back. Now we've put the eye in place. If you want to go and see this, then please go and go to the Clive's Art family page at Facebook. I'll just put some lights on the subject. Get a little remote control gadget. Look, I can turn lights on and off. See? It's cool, isn't it? It's like all those people that have helped me and purchasing stuff on my website. Please go along and do that, because I put it all back in here, and you know, I buy paint and I try to make the experience a little bit better for you, because that's the most important thing. You're good enough to watch my videos. The least I can do is make more intense videos with better quality for you. So looking at the palette now, we're coming over to the overhead cam. What I've actually got here is, let's just move the brushes one side. I've got a little bit of sap green. You can use any green mix you want. You can mix your own green, it's entirely up to you. I just happen to have a little bit of sap green there that I just wanted to use up. So because I wanted the eye to be green. I've also put some Mars black on the palette, because as you know, that's got blue in it. And I've got a little bit of diazinon purple. That's a very strong, powerful purple, hence the reason there's just a little blob there. I've got some processed cyan, which is now my main primary blue, besides some ultramarine. If I want a warmer, a redder, more violety blue, I will go for the ultramarine. And I've got a little bit of burnt umber. I will have to think what it was then. Yes, I got a bit of burnt umber there as well. Now on the other side of the palette, I've got some titanium white. Also got some gesso, and I've got some glazing medium. Now there are YouTube videos on that I produced, telling you about the glazing medium. The brushes I'm going to be using are a number 4 detail brush, a number 3 detail brush, a number 2 detail brush, number 1 detail brush, and a little short flat. That's all we're going to be using in this particular instance. Now, in the top corner of my palette, I've got some flow improver and retarder, which is available on my website. If you want to let camera focus, yes, as you can see, that replaces my medium mix formula. Please carry on using that if you want to, but this is a new formula that I've come up with, which is a lot easier, and that is available on the website if you want to go along and check that out. Okay, so with all that aside, let's focus on the canvas. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my short flat. I'm just going to put my brushes on top of my cupboard, and I'm getting some kitchen roll. And there you go in my hand. I'm just going to wet my brush. Always pre-soak your brushes. And I wipe that off on my little mat. So let's go into the burnt umber. And as you know, you can thin this down without worrying too much about the 45% rule, because the actual stuff that I've got in there now will help that. And just go around, maybe a bit thin, Clive, just go around the eye. Like that. Got it in a little bit darker. If you notice the way that I'm pulling my paint, I'm not painting like that. Okay, so what you need to watch exactly what I'm doing as well. So I know the fur is going to go roughly like that. So I'm just putting my brush strokes in as we block this out, where I think the fur would be going anyway. So I'm leaving myself a pattern if you look at it. We'll worry about that later. And wash my brush. Again, I'm going into I think a number 2, yes, a number 2 detail brush now. I'm going straight into black. A bit of blue and process blue. I think I said process magenta before. I shouldn't have. I should have said process blue, so I do apologize. So I just mixed a little bit of diaziam purple with that as well. So I'm pulling my brush now. I'm pulling it like this, and as I'm doing it, I'm spinning my brush. I'm also putting my hand like that, and then putting my other hand on top. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go around the eye. This is quite a thinnish type of mix that I've got here. Trying to preserve as much of that circle as I can without killing. And this just takes a little bit of concentration, so you need to practice. And this is what I suggest. The reason I started on paper, actually, you need to maybe paint a few of these just on paper, just to give yourself an idea of what's going on. We can play around and sharpen it up at a later stage. I just altered the eye a bit there. My brush has gone strange. Why is my brush gone strange? Anyway, don't worry too much, just block that. It doesn't matter for now. Okay. Wash the brush out. Going into our number 4 detail. Let's just pick up a bit of green. It's a bit thick. Touch of black. Just to give us a shade. And I mean a touch, just a touch. You've heard me say this before. Again, I'm pulling my brush to a point, and I'm just going to just go in very quickly with a bit of colour. The joys of acrylics is if you've made a mistake, then you can just paint over them. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over that black spot. I'm not happy with that. So don't ever worry about making a mistake. Now, if you've got, I don't know what's the matter with my green, there's something wrong with my green, but if you want to eliminate those brush strokes, you can get yourself a nice small blending brush. And I got one here. And then just lightly just go over that. Again, don't forget, keep following. Now you can see what I'm doing. I'm dragging like that. And this is how I do it. There's loads of ways to do this, but I do it like this because it gets me in the routine of when I'm painting hair or fur, strands of fur, etc. I do tend to paint with the fur, and it just gives me a bit of a head start. I can start to see patterns developing, basically. As I said, at this stage, it's not over important. I'm going into my number 1 now. I'm going to mix a bit of blue on the side, a touch of black. I'll just put a bit of that black we made earlier into that. A bit more blue. So play around with some colour mixes as well. Gesso, not titanium white. Gesso. There we are. I'll be happy with that colour. So I want to establish some lines. What I'm trying to do here now is to build this eyelid, lower eyelid, They haven't got eyelids, do they? They have. Of course they have. What are you doing, Clive? I don't know. Anyway, you know what I mean. And there you go. Let's bring this around there. Down there. It's a good idea if you've got a reference photograph. If you can find a reference photograph of a cat or a leopard, a lion, anything like that, a little bit more gesso. You have to excuse me, I'm just concentrating a second. So what I'm doing there is I'm trying to build, where are you? Where's the eye? There you are. I'm trying to build that area there up. So you can see it will develop. Now I'm just going to change my brush and going back into that number 4, going back into that black mix that we made. Just bringing a bit more Mars black into that. Taking the excess off my brush. Just gonna deepen that. Now I just put a line, washing my brush. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull that down. Just putting a very thin coating of black onto the eye itself. Get a little bit of lift in like that. It's because I'm working fast. Just get a little bit of more black and just put that bit of paint in there. Or just wait for a second or two. Blow on it if you want.